So let me just read this. So as the chair of the Exeter, New Hampshire Communications Advisory Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On Wednesday, November 25th, 2020, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided on that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via telephone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. I can start by taking a roll call attendance, and when each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, a son, a daughter, a spouse, etc., because this is required under the right to know law. I can begin with myself. My name is Connor Berry, and I'm here at my home office in the room alone. Nina Braun?
Nina Braun, home alone.
Okay. And Martha McEntee?
I'm Martha McEntee. I'm home alone.
Okay. And our designee from the Select Board, Daryl Brown?
Daryl Brown, I am alone.
Okay, great. Good morning, Daryl. And our representative from Exeter TV, Bob Glowacki?
Over in the TV offices by myself.
Excellent. Great. Thanks so much, everyone. And I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and celebrated in the best and safest way that you could. So just a couple of things. And actually, there was one small update that I didn't actually make it onto the agenda. I was approached via email probably 2 weeks ago by the Exeter Chief of Police, Stephen Poulin, who is heading up the new, I call it a task force, or call it maybe a committee on sort of the Exeter police partnership with the community, which is a newly designed task force that the Select Board created recently. He was asking me to join a meeting that they are having. I believe it's December 16th in the afternoon. They are one of the first orders of business on that committee is to create a town survey, I guess similar to the one that we created, asking local residents about their relationship with the police and a variety of different questions. I'm actually not really sure what the survey is going to look like. But he was reaching out to us and to me, asking if I could sit on that meeting and then report back to all of you, and if we could try to lend a hand to that committee in creating their survey. So I have more questions than I have answers at this point. I do intend to be on the meeting, and I will just see what it is that they are asking of us specifically. I'm certainly no survey expert, even though we just went through creating one. So I'm hoping that they don't think I have, all of the answers, but I'm happy to be on the meeting, and then I'm happy to report back on what happens. So speaking of the survey, I've seen I actually had to get a car registered just this last week, and I was in the town offices waiting in a long, long line. And I happened to see one of Nina's poster boards that had been printed out and is positioned sort of in the main office of the town clerk in a very prominent location. So I thought that was great. And there do seem to be, just because of the lack of personnel at the town offices, there do seem to be long lines. So people are waiting around, and I think they definitely will see it. So I thought that looked great. I thought that was a great location for it. I don't know if there are signs posted anywhere else. Bob, I can maybe ask you that. And then I didn't know what the response rate has been, if you have any information on that.
Sure. So there's also a sign indoors, but likely people aren't seeing it. It's like right when you come in the town offices to the left. It's where all of the legal notices are posted for meetings and such. So on the left side, opposite where the notices are, there's one there as well. And at some points that line was reaching the door, so maybe people were seeing it there. But with weather like we've had, there's not a great outdoor spot for it to be. So we don't have like a laminated sign or anything like that. So currently we're at just under 50. We have 49 people who have filled it out. Most of them were in that initial, push, I would say. We've had a couple in the last couple days, and there hasn't been a whole lot of, we pushing it out really. It's on the website, and we posted it on social media a couple times, and then there's, the poster. So I know we're going to try to keep pushing it out on social media every once in a while. I don't think we had discussed a cutoff date for when we want to stop collecting responses, but that's maybe something for you guys to talk about, and when you guys want to end it, and what do you want to do with all the data, I guess.
Great, thanks. I don't have a strong opinion on an end date for the survey. I think, end it when we think we've got kind of exhausted the, response rate and feel like we have enough data. 49 responses, is something, and that's nothing to sneeze at. And hopefully we'll continue to get some more. Some people may trickle in. I can kick it out to the group. Does anyone have a strong opinion? I mean, probably keep it out through the end of the year, at least at this point, and maybe beyond that. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts.
I think if we make a goal of say 100 people, and then if we get to that 100 mark, quickly for some odd reason, then maybe we extend it to 150 or 200. But if, I think having at least a 100 people response rate, maybe, I don't know if that's too much, but I think if we push it out more and post it elsewhere, I know that people don't necessarily look at, the outdoor posters and such, but there is opportunities, and actually the weather has been lovely for all of November. So people are out and about, and especially hopefully with Christmas shopping and going downtown and really pushing for that. So I think if we could find other spots to post the posters, that would be helpful too. And then posting it on social media. I had sent around those posts, which are all ready for Facebook. If you use Facebook or wherever, I would just put a little message. I just did one for the town forum, so hopefully they'll accept that. But just copy and paste the link to the survey and then put that in your message on Facebook, and then you could just attach an image. So you can just save that image to your files and then attach it easily. It's all set, the size is correct and everything.
Can I make a couple of comments? I think it might be helpful, and Daryl, maybe you can weigh in on this, if at the select board meeting it was announced, because there are a lot of people who tune into that or attend, and it might reach a wider audience, including people who don't usually go to social media. I don't know if that would be something that you would be able to do, Daryl.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we also kind of want to take the cue from that Chief Poulin's request. But we don't want to end up overlapping or getting.
Yeah.
Communications committee may end up with multiple survey requests from different groups. I was going to make the comment about March. What does the committee want to have in place to present to voters for March? And then that might inform when you want to stop and start collating and interpreting the data. So definitely I'll announce at the next select board meeting, which is next Monday. And then I assume the chief's request for Connor was really introductory, so they probably won't have a survey ready for at least a month, maybe 2. So you'd want to have this definitely hard stop before that point, and any other survey requests. So I guess it depends. And I'm sorry, I've sort of spawned a bunch of questions, but does the communications committee feel comfortable hosting survey requests from other committees. I know that takes this in a little different direction, but it's like how we start and stop ours. This one can inform, because imagine another committee saying, could you please help us with our survey, and just let it be open-ended.
That's true.
And then you end up having, so how we conduct this one sets a tone. So, yeah, I like the 100 for sure. Having sliding close dates, again, could end up making the communications committee the, keeper of the realm for realms we don't want to keep.
Yeah. Bob will be creating all sorts of surveys.
Bob, I had one other question. As we discussed at the last meeting, the property manager here at the mill sent out a blast email to all the residents about the survey several weeks ago. And I'm wondering, can you tell, did that generate any responses? I mean, there's several addresses at the mill. I can send you a list of what.
You know the date that e-blast went out?
I can't remember. It was very shortly after our last meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I see a lot of November 3rds, like more than half of them were just from election day.
Uh-huh.
And then there were, a few after that.
Because I can ask her to send another. She could send another. She might be willing to send another blast.
Yeah, I mean, something like that would be good. Selectman Brown brought up some good points. There's COVID fatigue. I think there's going to be survey fatigue if every group's sending out surveys, because already there's 2 surveys out right now that planning has put out, I believe. And they put it out like the same exact time we put ours out. But I couldn't tell you where their survey is on their website. I had to really dig for it. And it's not necessarily them. It's like they were working with someone else to do a survey. We did a survey for a reason. It hopefully will give us good results. But if everyone's, starting to do surveys and stuff like that, I think the role of you guys would be to advise other people on their surveys, not be creating them for those other groups, whether it's a town department or a committee. Talk about how we did it, the pros and cons, but, and I guess, we can help advise and, stuff like that, and best practices for getting one out. But I don't think we'll be the people who are like, hey, we have a survey to do, so this group will create it for us and administer it and report the results back to each committee. I don't think that's what this was envisioned for. That's my concern with that. They probably won't have anything until early next year. I wouldn't be surprised if, for them, it'd be good to shoot for March at the election, because there's going to be some sort of town meeting probably. So whatever that would be, or there's going to be the elections at the polls again. So maybe that's when they would want to do that. And maybe we could leave ours open just till the end of the year, till January or something, and then start compiling results. And because our results aren't really, we could publish them for the public, to see what they were, but I think it's more our survey was more to inform town staff on what we can do better or differently, not necessarily, and same with their survey, I guess. So
I think we should put a deadline on it, because people, if you announce at the Monday select board meeting that people have only until December 31st to do the survey, they're more likely to actually do it. I did get some feedback from a couple of people that they started to do the survey, or they heard about the survey and saw that they couldn't do it anonymously, so they weren't going to do the survey.
I did hear that as well from a few people. So my thing to that, I say that's unfortunate, I guess. It's not, your name's not going to get published if anyone's watching this and you want to do the survey. We're not going to publish your name and say that you said this or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just to make sure that there aren't, one person going in here and influencing it because they feel really strong about something. Or, we kind of want to take into account not who you are, but, in terms of individual, but are you an Exeter resident? Are you someone from out of town? Because that, we should be listening to Exeter residents first and foremost.
Should we put a disclaimer, like just a little one sentence at the top of it, saying, explaining that we don't use their name or won't pass their, it's just.
Right now it says, your name and contact information will not be shared outside of the Communications Advisory Committee. So, we could add more to that if you feel, we need to add something more to that, but it's not getting published or shared anywhere.
Maybe just saying that, adding that, it's not getting published or shared outside of the Communications Committee or something to that effect.
And Selectman Brown, if you do make an announcement at this Monday's meeting, that could be something to emphasize as well. Just, we just want to be clear that even though you do have to give us some of your personal information, all of it is, anonymized or kept confidential or whatever word you want to use, but that we're not looking to release it.
and maybe we, take this as a, for the PD specifically, I know that's maybe a more, what's the correct phrasing for it? It's more
touchy,
divisive in society these days or something, so maybe people will be more apprehensive to do that if it's not anonymous. So, there's different things. Maybe we should have done it anonymous and just built into that maybe people will, do that. So that's, trial and error. What works best, maybe doing an anonymous would be better. But still asking those questions, are you an Exeter resident? Are you not? And hoping that they'll, do that. So that's something to mention to the Police Stakeholders Committee. Because I'm guessing they would probably want an anonymous survey. Because same reason they allow anonymous tips when somebody calls in. They're not going to say, well, who are you? Because then people won't do it. But I agree with Martha with the cutoff time. So I'd be comfortable with December 31st because that's a really clear end of the month, end of the year, and then we will, early next year we can kind of present the findings of this, our initial draft of a study or something, or maybe after March whenever we get that wrapped up.
That sounds good. It occurs to me that we don't have a quorum, although even on our best day, I'm not sure that we do. I'm not sure that we need to vote on this. It looks like just a kind of a head shake. It looks like Martha agrees with December 31st. I agree. Nina, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So if this is announced at next Monday's select board meeting, we can just emphasize that the end date would be December 31st, so that respondents should get the survey completed by then, and that all of their information will be kept confidential. None of it will be released. It's just information that will be used internally to study town communications. And
throwing it out there as an option, we could delete those questions if you wanted to. I know, I think we were pretty firm in wanting to have those initially, so we didn't have those duplicate answers. And I know some town staff agree with that. But it's up to you guys. If we wanted to, we could take those off and allow it to be anonymous. I would probably say we should just keep it as is, because then we may have people go back and redo it, and I won't be able to tell.
And isn't there another, because if you turn them into like password fields, so the field is obscured as they're filling it in, so it kind of sends a message of, oh, this isn't,
I don't think that's an option on here.
I think it'd be hard to get people to take it once. I highly doubt somebody's going to go in there and try to skew a communication survey, but could be wrong. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be opposed to making it anonymous going forward, but that's.
Is there a way, Bob, that you can track if the same computer has filled out the survey more than once?
Not that I'm aware of. Like I don't think, at least in the results that I see, there's no like IP address or anything like that. I'm sure there's some way you could do that, but that's out of my knowledge.
Though families might even share, or two people might share a computer. So
yeah, I mean, I guess I'd rather have. We could give it a try and just take the anonymous thing, the names off, and see what happens. Because this is not like the U.S. Census. I mean, we're just trying to get information and feedback. And I mean, there was one person who told me that they didn't want to fill out the form, and it was someone whose opinion I really would have liked to have had. So I wouldn't. I think making it anonymous would, still asking that question: are you a resident or not? Or where are you? That question's fine. But I think the name, and I don't know what else is in there. Contact info.
So we're just asking first, last name, email address is required, and then phone number is the only thing that is not required. So
maybe just email.
You could just say, please answer this survey only once.
Yeah, and
use the honor code.
The question's not required, so they could put their name in if they wanted to, but if they don't, they can leave it blank.
I like that. I like giving them the option instead of just deleting the question entirely.
That's a good idea.
And then they could still submit the survey without giving personal information, or they could if they feel comfortable.
I would make a note of that, though, because sometimes you don't know when you see a form fill out that you don't have to put in that information until the end.
We do have at the front, and it was phrased like this already, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just catching this now. If you're interested in the results of the survey, please add your contact info. So at one point, we probably did have it optional. So I can put, optional under parentheses again when you actually get to that section, and just that's a simple thing of just unchecking the required box.
And I would take out the phone number. I mean, I don't even think we need to have that in there.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, we could get rid of that, but they can just skip right over it as well. So
yeah. I just think that looks kind of more invasive, just having that option there. Like, why do they want my phone number? Just having maybe, even if you just did first name.
Even though it was optional, I would say like 99% of people who did give their number.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the thinking there was if some of their questions were interested or something, and we wanted to follow up with some individual about their, like, hey, I really appreciate you, what did you mean by this? Or, because we did, say if they were interested in, the results of the survey, I think we were going to, if they're putting their phone down and willingly, it's implying that they're okay with us calling them about it.
Yeah, I mean, I highly doubt that we would call. I think email is definitely more of an option. But I don't know. I think even just having, definitely stating it's not required to, give us your contact information. And then maybe it's just even first name and email or something. Make it simple. I wouldn't even.
I think if you guys are comfortable, I'll just leave those things in there and they can put it in, but I'll make everything optional for that. That's the easiest way to keep it the closest to what it was for the original people, but making it not required.
And then can you write in there that it's not required?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Bob.
No problem.
Okay, so with that, we also agree on the December 31st end date. Then whatever we get at that point, okay, 100 responses would be great. Even with the responses that we have, I think I'm more interested in, representative data. So, people from just kind of a diversity of backgrounds would be nice, so I guess I'm not as interested in the number as long as it's somewhat representative. Oh, yeah, which actually seems pretty spread out. Well, at least with the age groups.
Is that really accurate? 22% over 80? Is that right?
The colors there's some that are similar.
But is the green really? No.
No, that's the 41 through 50. There's two shades of green.
Because I was going to say, I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, that's
interesting. But yeah, but still there's,
Slow down. Go over it one at a time so I can see.
So there's, I'll start, okay, yeah, it starts here. So the 4 people, 8%, 18 to 30, 9, 30 to 40, 11, 40 to 50, 11, 50 to 60, and 10. So it's pretty spread out there. I mean, still, grain of salt, this is a really small group, but at least it's, spread out that way. Most of them Exeter residents, or at least they describe themselves as living in Exeter. Most of them did not move here recently. They live in Exeter. Someone's a business owner. How would they? They're most, I would say, half are satisfied. So that's better than what we thought. Maybe we were thinking it would be more. But also about half are dissatisfied, and that was needing minor improvements was half, not the completely satisfied. That was 8% of people, 4 people. This is a little hard to look at this way, but green, it's just like the number of people who have said each category, and 3 is satisfied, or 3 is the best, 1 is the worst, and this 4th one is they're unsure of the communication. So most people rated are unsure of the communication for these different departments here. But some aren't really public facing, so that kind of makes sense. But I think they're all similar mixes around there. Looking at what kind of people look at election info, I think this is slightly skewed just because we did this at the election. So if we did this on a holiday week where people didn't know when trash pickup was, I bet that would be the highest response. So again, but schedule of town events, that's something really popular, but that's something we no longer really do anymore. We kind of used to. So it tells us about what other people are looking for. I think these kind of info is going to be really good to look through. They're qualitative responses. People go to the website a lot. They have that Facebook group, or word of mouth. Are big. Most people don't go to meetings. Most people haven't been to virtual meetings. Most people do not watch the TV, or most of them. Most, if they do, are watching meetings. Where do they watch it? Majority is on Facebook, YouTube, and the way these work, you can click multiple ones, so it's not necessarily that this has the highest things, but they could also have clicked all of the other ones as well. Most people did not know we have a mobile app. Most people, since they didn't know, they didn't download it. Most people didn't know that they had the emergency alert system. So, that's something to talk about with the police stakeholders, working that into your questions. And what would people like to see more? Facebook is big, town website and email are tied. So people want those to be used a lot more than they are. I'm guessing they want more updated information quickly is what some of the responses have been. Specifically, an example, election info. They think the election info should be posted the night of the election. But then, I guess what I would push back on is explaining, the setup we have right now. But yeah, maybe someone should be scheduled to work a late night, just so they can make sure that info gets out there because people want to see it.
Well, Bob, I wouldn't have supported that if I knew that it meant that you had to stay up late.
Maybe not me, but somebody's going to have to post it on the website. But it's a relatively little thing to do. Little things like that can make a huge difference in people being satisfied. So I know we do try and get it up on Facebook the night of, or it's posted somewhere on the website, but making sure it's prominently posted, stuff like that. What's your preferred method of communication? A lot of people said email. So email is a theme I'm seeing a lot so far. So I always thought some sort of email newsletter, if it was possible, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. Maybe that's something the town could do partner with someone else or do themselves, or, different departments can kind of write up a summary. I know it's been newsletters, whether in print or email, have been successful in other towns. So, the rest of the questions are kind of just answers like that. So I think it's good so far. It's definitely not a tell-all for the whole town, but I think, combining this little bit of data we're getting from those type questions with their text responses, their like short answers and stuff, it would hopefully inform or back up what you guys have when thinking about the different communications when we start breaking down each thing like we did with the website and then with social media, and kind of go over the best practices and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great. And as responses continue to trickle in, again, hopefully we could get maybe close to 100. That would be excellent. But I'm glad to see that the different age groups are represented. I think that's good. That seems to me to be getting enough of a diverse background of people from town. So that's good. Okay.
And thanks for managing that, Bob. It's a lot of work that we're fortunate to have.
No problem.
You on the committee to help us with that.
Yes, no, thank you very much. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to actually created it. So that's great. Great. All right. Well, then we will kick it off. We will hand it over to Daryl. I can follow up with him about, I can email him just a reminder that if we can make an announcement at the next select board meeting, we can give the end date for the survey, and then we can remind people that their personal information will be kept confidential. It's only for the purposes of a study. Excellent. So I'm glad that, we can all kind of congratulate ourselves on getting that survey out. That's great. It's been in process for a long time, but we finally kind of pushed it over the finish line, and that's good. That feels good. So whatever we can glean from that, we may not really know until, 2021 when we can really look at the data. I did just happen to look at my email from Chief Poole, the meeting I'm supposed to attend is December 15th. Given the proximity to the holidays, it seems unlikely that the Police Stakeholders Committee would want to push for a survey, that soon, immediately. So hopefully that, our survey will be completed December 31st. We can all meet sometime in the beginning of January. And then if we want to give, more of a formal advice to the Police Stakeholders Committee at that point while they're beginning to create their survey, that should be fine. So hopefully, I know there was a concern that there would be too much overlap. Hopefully we're okay there with the timeline of everything. Okay, excellent. So the other kind of overarching theme of the committee has been working on a master plan, looking at the website, specifically the website design and functionality, and then giving, advice and best practices to all of our town employees and departments on creating content and, how to distribute information in sort of the best way possible. I've had the opportunity, I don't know if every committee member has had the opportunity to sit down with Bob and look through, what we might call the back end of the website. I found that very interesting, the going through, looking at the so-called micro sites and how things are actually created and managed behind the scenes. I think, Bob, are you able to pull up the working draft of the master plan that you emailed me yesterday? I'm wondering if and this is, I am by no means the authority on this. My suggestion on this would be to break it out a little bit and maybe assign different sections of this to either individual committee members, or we can create subcommittees who can kind of look at this and get people, over the course of probably not the next few weeks, but maybe the next few months, to take on certain parts of this where they might have some professional background or expertise or just a willingness to try, and just kind of get some of this in writing. If that sounds like a viable action plan. I just don't know if all of us, these meetings are somewhat limited. We only have an hour, all of us dealing with all of this, it might be a tall order. So, I don't know what the best way to break this stuff down is. I think Bevan she works professionally with content marketing, I believe, for an organization. Nina, I know you work in the marketing space. I don't know if you do website design at all. I don't know if that's.
My background's in communications and marketing. So
okay.
I've built out communication plans for large corporations and so forth. So I'd be happy to be a part of a subcommittee to work on this. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great too. I think, maybe we can just discuss, we're getting towards it, and I unfortunately will have to jump off the call right at 10. Is maybe just trying to nail down a mission statement and goals. I think that was sort of, that's the first thing on the working draft here. I think that's something we could try to nail down. We don't have to put it in writing right now. But I think the mission statement and goal of the working draft of this plan would map onto, what our charge is, which you can actually see on the Exeter.gov website, is what the communications committee is supposed to be doing is, finding ways to advise our town employees and departments to create content and distribute it more effectively. And I think one of the things that we discussed with Bob when he was giving us the sort of the demo of the website is, what is the full life cycle of an announcement? Who creates the content? Who are the designated point people at each of the departments to go in there and actually create the content? Who actually is, and then who is the point person for going into the website, creating a microsite, and then going in there and updating the information somewhat frequently. It doesn't have to be every day or every week, but at least to touch base. And then who's responsible for going in and deleting the information, or at least just removing it from the website and maybe archiving it somewhere so that it's not just, sitting there and backlogging. And then what's the timeline for that? I think that even just that piece of it is weeding through and taking out, outdated announcements that no longer have any relevance and just taking them off the website. Even just that might be, a really helpful thing moving forward. And then again, just as far as the website design and functionality, if we think there's a better way to organize the information so that people, when they're coming onto the website, what are they using it for most frequently, and how can they most easily get to that, information by clicking? If they now have to click through 4 different buttons or screens, is there a way to get that down to 2? So, I'm not a website functionality expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I can definitely try to start taking a crack at this stuff. The best way to do it, I think, is to just look at the website itself, spend a little time on there, try to, think about it just from your own perspective. What's the information I'm looking for here? And I'll admit, Bob, just the other day, I wanted to know if we got a Christmas tree this year, when the trash would be picking it up, and I didn't know. And I will admit, I just couldn't find it readily on the website, so I had to go into Google, type Exeter, New Hampshire Christmas tree pickup 2020, and then it did. It was, the first thing on Google. But then I had to click into the website and get into it. So even I will admit I'm guilty of, trying to use the website and then just not finding the information I needed right away.
I tried to find the survey yesterday and had to write to Bob to get the link. I couldn't find the survey on the website.
Oh.
It's now under news, I noticed on the front page. I don't know if it was there the other day.
No one's going to look for that under
I know. Yeah.
I just want to make two points as we approach this draft. I think that we are not being realistic if we don't start saying in the documents and in the materials that we're producing from these meetings that even if we have this best practices guideline, which I agree is entirely necessary, there must be a point person who oversees and manages the whole thing, because it's not going to work unless there is someone with expertise whose job it is to manage this stuff. You can't just put out a compliance manual and expect people to comply. It's just not going to work. And I think we need to, if we're going to need the support of the select board, and Daryl, yes, I'm talking to you, we're going to have to make them realize that somebody is going to need to accept that responsibility, because otherwise all this work is going to be a complete waste of time.
Yeah, if I could just, kind of, and that's why I think my first kind of question up at the top of my draft was, do we want it to be more of a study or more of a guide? I was leaning towards the latter and being more practical on, like, with what we have now, with slight adjustments, being allocation of people's time, resources that's doable today. What can we accomplish with our current system that's going to do the most amount of change quickly? And then I think it's important to put that document together. And then if you, like you mentioned, we can put together a separate thing that's your recommendations or findings, like that are the shortfalls, which I did initially have into this,
right.
Kind of, and that's where you'll put stuff in, like from the survey, and, where you think even this will fall short, I guess. But I think it's important to do both, I guess, and not just focus on one or the other.
But if we're the advisory committee, my advice is that that's what we need. And we need the select board and Russ as town manager to direct these improvements, or they're not going to happen.
Martha, can you keep going? Can you say more on that? I mean, it's very clear, but just can you paint sounds like you have a model a mental model. Can you kind of go further?
I think you might be giving me too much substance there. My background is in legal and compliance work and getting people to follow the rules and communicate accurately. And I in the ideal world, I'd like us to have a public information officer, right? But I accept having sat on this committee and worked on various things in the town, that we're not going to hire somebody to do that. And so with, at least under the current financial constraints and budgeting constraints. But there are people like Bob, for instance, who have this expertise. And if that can be part of his portfolio to coordinate the provision of information through the town, that is what I think that we need. Now, certain departments, like I've been really impressed with the way Public Works updates people. Each department is going to be responsible for its content, but the way it's presented to the public requires different skills than knowing, what the water quality is or when a construction project is ending. You really need someone who is an expert communicator, an information officer. And you need to have that person prove to be a useful resource to people like Jennifer, who are very busy with their substantive jobs. They need to say, listen, we've been getting tons of phone calls about XYZ. Can you help us communicate better to the town what's going on here? And I guess that I don't see improved communications as a luxury. I see it as something that's really vital to getting people into the town feel like the enormous real estate taxes they're paying are being well spent. That if people are more satisfied with what's happening in the town, and that requires communications, they're not going to be so angry every time you hit them with another assessment or improved higher taxes. But that requires clear, effective communication. It also, I think, that if we have someone who's a communications officer, they're going to take some of the pressure off each department to communicate. It's like all of a sudden, if there's a lot of phone calls about traffic disruption, they're going to start answering the phone all the time instead of doing the job they're supposed to do. A communications person can help nip that problem in the bud and free up people to do their substantive job. So I don't know. I really think that we need to get Russ and the board thinking this could be a major asset to the town if we could communicate better about the things that we're doing. So I don't know how, this is just, I've only had one cup of coffee this morning, so I hadn't really planned to talk about this today. But as we've been talking and going through all this hard work, I'm thinking, the really bottom line is that to get this going, we need the town to realize that communications is not a luxury, it's essential, and it can help in so many other ways, help everybody's job.
And so to just play devil's advocate for that idea, is a possible role of a communications committee an auditor of other entities in the town, almost like a report card of month by month going around. And definitely, again, just devil's advocating your idea, or your concept, saying, what if the communications role is to go around and say, we're not, this department or this effort wasn't communicated effectively, or
No, not at all. I would view that person as a consultant to the department. None of us can know what challenges Public Works or planning or economic development or water, and so we don't know what their substantive challenges are. We need to just help them communicate more effectively with the public. So I would view the communications person as an internal consultant, an assistant working to help them accomplish what they want to accomplish. I can remember one time being at an election, and Jennifer was there with recycling samples, and she was showing people what you can recycle and what you can't recycle. And it was the first time I'd ever seen that those little plastic berry containers can't be recycled in town. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if she had someone to help her put together an information thing like that? And I think she does. Her people do a really good job from what I can tell. But I don't view the communications committee as police, but assistance and aid to other people in their responsibilities in town. Otherwise, I mean, that, communications police is just absolutely not. No.
Does the committee serve that role that you're describing of consultant?
Do you want to pay me to do that? I mean, that's a big job. And I don't have the expertise to do that. The person who has the expertise to do that is Bob Glowacki, but that's not part of his charge at the moment. It should be, in my opinion. But I'm just a little voice here. I think these are bigger issues, and I think we're not doing our job as the advisory committee if we don't tell the select board that if you really are serious about improving communications, these are some of the little steps you can take. But if you really want it to be more effective, you need to deck somebody against this, either part-time or full-time. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying go out and hire some fancy person with a big degree in public communications. I think we've shown that you don't need that.
There's plenty of people available in town that would be willing to take on that role and have that experience. But I think it's a matter of, I agree with you completely that would be forward thinking. I mean, that would be definitely getting the role in motion and getting it into the town's agenda. And we experienced that with other committees trying to get a higher position. It's something that would potentially take 2 years to get even on the budget. So, but I think moving towards that direction is definitely viable and necessary, and especially as you stated, to be a resource and to advocate for the town on behalf of the taxpayers. I mean, it's that's very important. I mean, we do obviously pay very high taxes in this town, and so it definitely should be, in my opinion, a position, but something I think forward thinking, and we could do the little parts, and we could make the suggestions, and then create this how-to document for different groups, town offices, and so forth. And I think that is a stepping stone with the forward thought of hiring, whether it's a part-time or full-time, making that suggestion.
The primary responsibility has to be with each department, because they have the substance, the content that you need. Yeah. But if there's just someone, once you put out this best practices document and they buy into it, and for them to buy into it, Russ is going to have to get them to buy into it. In order for it to be presented in a consistent, coherent way, somebody has to have oversight. I'm not going to even say management or supervisory responsibility, but just oversight, to be the person who makes sure that the election information on the website doesn't include an outdated form to get an absentee ballot, which was a problem we had this past time. That the information on the website doesn't say in one place that the town office is closed and someplace else that it's open. Things like that. And that might not be a huge time-consuming job, but it's going to be a serious responsibility for somebody to take on.
No, it is a big job, and it is definitely a hired position kind of job. And if you look to other towns, larger towns, they all have, that position in place. City of Rochester, New Hampshire, actually, was just hiring. As part of that hiring process.
Are they really? Well, I'm thinking of a little thing. For example, a lot of people, when I first moved here, people told me, oh, you can't drink the Exeter water. It's really poisonous. It's filled with all this stuff. So I walked down the hall here at the mill, and there are loads of people who are getting bottled water delivered. But I sat in on some meetings that Jennifer had about our water filtration improvement, and she convinced me that our water is now perfectly drinkable. So there are fewer people. Nobody here knows that. I mean, there are a couple of fewer people like me who no longer buy bottled water, but there's still people here who think, oh God, I still have to buy bottled water because the Exeter water is terrible. Well, if I
go to the spring, go to the spring.
You also told me the spring is not reliable either, and I'm thinking, well, this is so helpful. And this makes the difference to people's pocketbooks. Do I go out and spend money on water or not? And if I were paying property taxes directly here, which I'm not because I rent here at the mill, I would, that would make me feel good to know that my property taxes have gone to improve the water so that my kids are safer. I don't have to pay for this. I don't have to buy an expensive water filtration system. And I'm not sure how effectively, I know she tried really hard to get that message out.
So if I could jump in a little bit, all good points by everybody. I think what will get us to what you guys are talking about is continuing what we've been doing. We looked at the website. I think what Connor mentioned was great about I think, everyone can go back into what they know best and, maybe bring some stuff to the next meeting of, here's, a company I work for, here's their website policy or procedures and working that into how does that apply to the structure that we have currently with our website platform and stuff like that. And what I'd like to see is us doing that for each, what I call them the draft plan, like tools, which is like website, social media. Maybe you want to break that into Facebook, whatever. But I think you could lump that together. Video, emails, whether it's newsletter or whatever. And we just go through each of those things. And once you'll be able to get all the best practices stuff together and stuff that best practices can't solve, that's where, take that mental note, write it down. Here's a suggestion that needs to be solved outside of the best practices. And that way we'll get this document, which I hope we could, each month it'd be nice to tackle one thing. So maybe by the middle of next year, which would be right before budget season, we would have the best practices, and you guys would also have all of the shortfalls that you think the best practices can't meet. And then, because changes can't be made in the middle of the year anyways. It'd be July would be where budgets and stuff get talked about. So, and I can say, Nina, you're bringing up like other towns that have it. Something that we often do, and I'm sure they do this in other, in the private sector, maybe, I'm not sure, but, towns of this size in this area, because like City of Rochester is nowhere near,
No.
Exeter.
Right.
So find something what are towns like Exeter doing? I know we're kind of a medium size, on the larger side of a town. But what do our towns doing? And that's where if you look at maybe what other towns of our size, a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, I would say we do pretty good. So it's that's definitely something to take into consideration. Obviously, there's always room for improvement there, but that's where look through the best practices, all that stuff, and then note those shortfalls of the best practices or where you guys think weak points are. And that's stuff you can bring to the select board and, what do you think would solve those? Maybe it's a person, maybe it's allocating time to somebody, but we definitely have to dive deep at all of these things and look at it and actually start, writing this stuff down because we can talk as much as we want about all the best practices, but until we start actually writing it down and floating the ideas past people, we won't start making any changes.
I think that is such a great idea to focus on what best practices can't solve. I think that's really it, because it's like, what can we do with the resources we have now to improve the communications, and then identify what problems that doesn't solve.
I think the website is a prime example of that. When I think
it's up at 10, right?
Yeah, just one last real quick thing, and then
I have a few minutes. It's fine.
So I mean, the website is a prime example. I would venture a guess. A lot of you were thinking that we need a totally new website, but just by taking the time to look through how it works, really the website is not the issue. It's making sure we have a standard procedure. That's something totally doable. And then, yeah, maybe there's a shortfall of, someone to, oversee or post really frequently across all the, the major parts of the site. But if we, worked in those best practices, I think a lot of the issues that people have with the website would be solved pretty quickly. That's a prime example of we can do that deep dive on all these things. You'll find a lot of stuff we can actually improve, or maybe it's, maybe it's already being done or being worked on. So
can I suggest that Connor parcel out, or Bob, somebody parcel out assignments for people to start writing best practices?
Can you share that document too with us that you've started?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be in the minutes or whatever, but what I'll do is I will send that and some homework, I guess, to Connor, and then Connor can send that out.
I have it. I actually have it open right now. So I will forward that to the committee. And given that at least two of our regular committee members aren't on the call today, I guess I'd rather get a sense of people's professional backgrounds before we start assigning. And far be it for me to be the one assigning. It might be better if people volunteer based on what they think, how they can contribute best. But yeah, I will send that document around. And then I think if people want to, again, I guess just look at best practices from their own perspective and just try to write in some material as they see fit. And then when we meet again, we can all come together, and again, hopefully we'll have the full committee in attendance, and we can just, start, like for instance, I am more than happy to, let me see if I can get the actual document up. I am more than happy to start creating the communications workflow, because again, I'm more of a content person. I don't have any tech experience at all. But I'm happy to start, creating a workflow. Like, what's the idea? What is the content? What is the substance? And then, how to kind of create that, or how to distill that into like a press release format. I'm also happy to take a crack at the mission statement and goals, just kind of creating that document based on all of our conversations over the past year and, what I've kind of learned from being on this committee. So I'm happy to do at least that. I can volunteer myself for that.
Yeah, I'll just know with some of those things, and this is just what I was thinking, definitely get to get a start on it, but a lot of that will be informed later by when we go through each thing on, an event idea just to distribution, where does the event have to go using all the tools that we can use. So once we go through all the tools that are available, we can, really finalize that workflow, because maybe we don't even know all of the tools that are available yet for us.
Right. Or just what's the easiest, right? In our vision, what is the easiest way to get that information out? Depending on what it is. Is it a town event? Is it a more of an emergency announcement? Is it just kind of a regular announcement that doesn't have as much urgency to it, but is nonetheless important? And then, it's all very department specific. So how do you get the information out in the best way possible? So we got to do a deeper dive and start thinking about it a little more reflectively. I do have to jump off. I think this was great. I think this was a great meeting. I think we really got into the weeds of some things. I will send out kind of a follow-up email, which will include the material from Bob. People can take a look at that, take a swing at it as they can. As far as the next meeting, I know we've been going with Tuesday mornings. I see in early January, there's Tuesday, January 5th, Tuesday, January 12th, Tuesday, January 19th. Do people have
I'll be gone until the 10th. So the 12th will be the earliest I could do a meeting.
Okay. Hopefully it's a much deserved vacation, Bob, or at least I hope it is. Good.
Hopefully it'll work out.
Okay, good. So, well, do you mind having a meeting on the 12th if you're coming back into the office?
That'd be fine with me.
Does the 12th work for everybody? Good, Martha? Good, Nina? Is that all right, Daryl? Tuesday the 12th? Excellent. So I will send out a follow-up email, again, with kind of a slight review of everything we talked about today, and then just reminding you again of the next meeting. I think this was great. I wish you all a wonderful, safe holiday season. And if I don't bump into you around town or see you in some other capacity, then I will see you via Zoom on